While you were in Egypt, I'm assuming that's when you heard about Omicron and this variant that was starting to spread.
Yes, so it was actually the day before we were to depart to come back to Canada that we all got an email from Egypt Air that canceled our flight because they were no longer allowed to fly into Canada. At that point, we had to scramble to find another flight to get home to Toronto. We managed like almost right away to get a flight from Cairo to Vienna and then Vienna to Toronto. So we all felt great. We felt relieved. We had our COVID test in Egypt and we got to the airport to check in. And basically, when we got to Austrian Airlines, they laughed. They said, "You're going to Canada?" "No, you're not, because Canada is not accepting the Egyptian COVID negative test." So at that point, they were very helpful trying to get us home as quickly as possible. We ended up flying from Cairo to Vienna, Vienna to Frankfurt, and then had a COVID test in Frankfurt. Had to wait in the airport for 3 hours to get all of us, there was 6 of us traveling together, a negative COVID test in Frankfurt.
And so through every step, Kathy, were you checking in to make sure that you were doing everything that the Canadian government required of you as a Canadian citizen?
Yes, we were, Maggie. We all filled out our ArriveCan apps. We all received a QR code that they had accepted our quarantine plan.
So you arrive back home, you're happy to be on Canadian soil, and things kind of go awry. What happened next? Because once you arrived?
Well, we knew that there was going to be, and we understand that there has to be some kind of safeguards put in place, but um, as soon as they knew that we came from Egypt going through customs, they pulled us over to the Canadian Border Services. And basically, she told us that we were not going home that night. She basically read us our rights at the end, basically saying, if you do not comply, you will be subject to, you're being detained by I forget if she said the Canadian government or by Canada Border Services, but you're being detained. And if you don't comply, you're subject to up to a $750,000 fine or 6 months in prison. So, it puts a little fear in you too, right?
Yeah.
They put us in another queue where we had to fill out so many more forms, everything, get our COVID test, go to another checkpoint where they gave us a home test kit. And then they put us in line waiting for the bus to the hotel. So we waited at the airport for 3 hours for the bus to come. It was a big school bus. There was shuttles apparently before that. Then we got to the hotel. There was 3 shuttle buses in front of us waiting to be checked into the hotel. We waited on the bus another 2 hours, no water, no bathroom breaks, nothing. When we did get our turn to go in, there was only 2 people checking in all these many
Wow.
people.
And then on top of that, a number of you were out of your medication. So there's
Yes.
a medical aspect to this as well.
The nurses that we saw the first morning when we woke up, a nurse came to the door, all in the big hazmat suit. It was so surreal. And, took our temperature, which we were all normal. And then the second morning is when, a nurse came. We knew we were negative. And I said, "Look, I'm out of my anxiety medication. I really need to be released very soon." And she just said, "I'll send someone up." My girlfriend across the hall, I heard her say, "If I don't have my medication, I could go into a diabetic coma. I'll send someone up." Nobody
Mm,
came up.
mm. You took your test, negative again, and you actually, with a group of your friends, decided that you were going to leave. Tell me how that all unfolded.
What the process was supposed to be, once you get those results, you would be assigned a quarantine officer and they would come and do the release and find out what the rest of your quarantine plan was. So just because, you've got a lot of time on your hands, we were trying to phone the Red Cross, who was our point of contact, but they weren't answering. And then in the morning, we did at 8, when there was 2 open, we started calling and calling, never getting an answer. We're still trying to follow the process as well. Well, one of my friends did get through to someone, and the way 4 of us, our rooms were facing each other across the hall. So we would always have these meetings from our doorway.
Mhm.
So my friend was with the speakerphone, and this Maggie, it was excruciating.
Mhm.
We explained the situation. She asked us all our names. She couldn't find two of the girls' names or their files. She found my name and another name. Several times she asked us to spell her name. It was excruciatingly painful. Finally, she said, our supervisor is here. I'm going to send her up. Well, nobody came up.
Wow.
Nobody came up. So at that point, we said, look, we could be here. We don't know how long we're going to be here.
Mhm.
One of the girls, so we decided we're going to leave.
Mhm.
We got all packed up, and one of the girls said, you know what, I'm going to stay just till noon. I'm really trying to follow this process, and the fine is hanging over our head, etc.,
Mhm.
aside from all the other money that we spent now to get home. So we were very nervous going down in the elevator because we knew we were going to get pushback from that
Mhm.
little point coming in. Maggie, we went, there was not a soul sitting in that place. We walked right out. We knew from the girl that had left earlier that
So no security there. Sorry, Cathy. So no
nothing,
security guard or anything kind of manning,
nothing,
making sure. Wow.
nothing. So we get to the end of the driveway. There's a security car there. She jumps out. What room numbers are you from? We tell her our room numbers. And then it was almost like a comedy show. 5 of them came running down because they knew that, they weren't there to escort us to the property. And kind of, we all were upset at this point. There was things being said, like I said, look, I'm going to have a panic attack. My friend here has not had her medication. And the girl just said, just get off our property and you're subject to a $6,000 fine. And we said, gladly. The girl that waited till noon,
Mhm.
she stayed on hold with the Red Cross till noon, never getting an answer. She
Wow.
then called down to security to say, I need a nurse to come up here to release me. And they said, the nurses don't have the authority to release you. She goes, well, then I need the quarantine officer to come up and release me. Whoever said, there's no quarantine officer on site today. She goes, when will there be? She said, there won't be one today.
What I heard you say to Cathy is that you knew that there would be a process when you got home.
Yeah,
You knew that obviously, you'd have to adhere to certain restrictions, protocol, and all of those things.
absolutely.
What it sounds like is that the government was not prepared for this onslaught and how to deal with this situation properly. If the government sees this, Cathy, what would be your message to them? Because I think you're right. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who are probably in a very similar position than that you and your friends were in, Cathy. What's the message to them?
I think there's been time. It's been 2 years to have these kind of protocols in place and to streamline them. Why could I get a negative COVID test in Egypt in 24 hours and in Frankfurt in 3 hours, and then come to my home country and be told it could take up to 72 hours? It's especially when you have a quarantine plan in place. I didn't have to pay to stay there, but the taxpayers paid for all that. And I think it was wasteful because if it was more streamlined, we could have been processed out of there.